Hello everyone, this is episode 20 of Triple Cost Cinema. I'm Mario, and here with me is, as always, Pooper.
That's me. Hello.
So we are still going through all the new wave of cinemas, and previously we do the French new wave. Now we're gonna do the Czechoslovak new wave, which is around the 1960s. So basically around the same time of the French new wave.
Is it? Is there really that much overlap between the two time periods? I don't even remember.
Yeah, so the timeline is overlap, but I think the style and the content is very much different. I don't think they are like direct influence from each other.
Hmm. I see. Yeah, we're in the mid '60s. Like when you say French New Wave, of course I remember seeing some of those films. Like what did we watch? Perrault Le Fou,
Yep.
and
Uh,
two others. Jules and Jim
uh,
was one, right?
yep.
There was a third
And
one.
Hiroshima Mo Amo.
That's right. Wasn't Hiroshima? Wasn't that in the late '50s?
Yeah, it's from 1959.
Okay, so perhaps the French New Wave stretches a little bit longer and dates back a little bit farther than
Yep,
the Czechoslovak New Wave.
yep.
And also, I
That's true.
think, and I mean, this is just me kind of spouting off of the mouth here, having
Yep.
only read like a small percentage of a Wikipedia article about this film movement.
All
But
right.
from what I can tell, the Czechoslovak New Wave was brought on by like the lessening of censorship
Yep.
in
Yep.
Czechoslovakia at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, were they functioning under a communist government still at that point? I think they were.
They were, and still until like the fall of Soviet, which is in 1989. So yes,
Not as late as 1999, right? Wasn't the Didn't the Berlin Wall come down in 92?
the war the Berlin Wall it come down in 1989, and the fall of Soviet I think is around the same year. So yes, it's that late. It's the late 80s,
Hmm. Okay.
and I think during that time, or even like early 90s, that Czechoslovakia split into Czech and Slovakia,
Right.
two countries.
Right. But in terms of the films that we're discussing here, the in the mid '60s, I guess what there was some lessening of censorship
Yep, yep,
under
yep,
Czechoslovakia's government, and
yep.
I don't know the context of that loosening of restrictions, but it allowed filmmakers to make more political films, I suppose, or films that more directly addressed um,
And
what went on during World War II and Czechoslovakia's part in it under Nazi occupation.
yeah, and I think it's amazing in and of itself because like Soviet at the time and Poland, like some country under the communist, they still under the strict censorship, and some of the films that uh right now got banned until the fall of Soviet that they got released again, so they not see the day of life for almost 20-30 years.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that any of these three films existed under those sorts of conditions.
Yep.
Not that I'm
And
aware of.
even I think the three film that we watched, so we haven't mentioned the three film actually, so I just gonna do that now. The three film is The Shop on the Main Street, 1964, Love of a Love of a Blonde, and Closely Watched Dreams in 1966.
Yeah. I have Wikipedia here says that The Shop on Main Street came out in '65,
All right.
but
So
I mean maybe filming was completed earlier.
yeah.
Who knows?
So
Mid '60s at least.
and so the thing, my point is that the three films we said we just watched, they pretty much have the same tone. I think it's more like a tragic comedy for the
Same
three films.
tone. I don't agree at all.
All
I think
right,
one of these films has a very different tone from the others.
right. Maybe that's gonna be the first one that we're gonna talk about. Let's see.
What do you mean by that? Which film will be first?
Oh, I gonna go for the Shop on the Main Street,
Right. The first to
but
be released.
the first to be released, yeah. But yeah, let's talk about the whole movement first because
Well, I don't know anything else about it, so you're gonna have to
mm,
teach me.
all right. So this movement, this film are really popular back in Czechoslovak, and also very well received by the world as well, because the three films they all nominated for the best foreign language in Oscar for three consecutive years, and two of them won.
Hmm. So I guess America was very receptive to this film movement.
Right. And
I wonder what the reason
I
for that is.
mm, will make
Well,
funny.
but
They really
yeah,
only
there's
comedy, right?
typically like a political or financial reason beyond just the films being good or bad, because
Yeah,
that's, I don't
yeah,
think the Academy is
yeah.
making that their first priority.
And I do think that based on all other film I watched from the same movement, that's what we watch. The three film we watch is like like the beginning stage, the first stage of this movement, because all the film that released maybe later on, it's more extreme. It's more like really split receive.
Oh,
So
I see.
the one that I mentioned is like Daisy, which is also released in 1966. So this is the Cremator and Valerie and Her Week of Wonders in 1970. So this one they really like on acid. That's that's the term I use.
So they're more experimental.
Surreal. Yep,
Okay.
that's right.
Hmm. Well, it's always a toss up whether I'm going to enjoy a film like that. So, for me
That's
at
true.
least, it's probably happier with these three
Yeah, true.
selections. Less of a gamble. Although I didn't like all three of these movies.
Oh wow, I found them to be I enjoy them basically on the same level. I don't have a clear favorite of the three because I think those three worked together.
Hmm. Excuse me.
We might go with that. Yep,
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I thought the films were good,
yep.
but there was
All
there
right,
was one that I would say is my least favorite for sure.
that all right. And out of the three I just mentioned, the cremator is actually pretty popular now. It almost got banned by the Czechoslovak, and it's now I think on the top 200 250 of letterbox if that's anything.
Hmm.
Yep,
It says that it's popular with terminally online 20 and 30 somethings,
yep,
right?
that's
Film
right.
students.
But the subject matter is actually pretty hard to swallow as well. It's about, let me see if I can pull up a synopsis here. It's about the well-meaning cremator of the dead into a murderer of his family, a mass murderer who proposed to run the orphan at the extermination camps due to the influence of Nazi Party.
Wow, that sounds a lot. I mean, two of these three films that we're about to discuss here, um, there was plenty of discussion of the
Nazi.
Nazis' role
Yep,
in
yep, yep,
or what Czechoslovakia was like
yep.
under Nazi occupation. But that sounds way more
Very,
like directly a direct commentary on it.
yep. And this one, because he believes that his murders are liberating the souls of the DC into the better life. So, yep, really dark.
Yeah, I suppose.
All right. So, I think let's start with the shop on the main street. The film that actually made in Slovak with I think Slovakian language. I know I can tell the difference between Czech and Slovak, but apparently they are enough different that they are two separate language.
Yeah, I can't either.
Yep.
No idea. They're both Slavic languages. That's all I
Mhm.
know.
Yep.
So whenever you see an S with a little arrow over it, it makes the sh sound. Whenever you see a C with a little arrow over it, it makes the ch sound. That's all
Wow.
I. That's all I know.
You better than me then.
We'll see if I can get the pronunciations right.
All right.
So this is the film that I watched just before we started recording, and I have no notes written down for it, and it's also the longest of the three,
Yep.
which I
Yep. Yep.
definitely felt as I was watching it. I felt its length.
Yep.
Um,
Is it the one that you not enjoyed as much?
yeah,
That's gonna be my first question. Yeah. All right.
yeah, I like the other two a little better.
Yep.
This film, when the film started out and we progressed to the point where he is going to become the Aryan or Aryan. I don't know how you say that, pronounce
Yep.
that word. My guess would be Aryan, but I don't know. He's going to be essentially the overseer of the shop, and it's going to
Yep.
be like his property, and the profits are all supposed to go to him.
All right. Can you just explain to me more detail what is the Aryan doing? Because I'm pretty sure that for me before watching this film, I have absolutely no idea what they are.
Oh, so
And
the concept of the Aryan race is like
yeah,
the master race.
right, right.
So Hitler's Nazi movement was predicated on the idea that Aryans are supposed to take over the world. Basically,
Yeah.
they're
Mm,
God's chosen people, and they're like blonde haired and blue eyed. Those are Aryans,
yeah, yeah,
and everybody else, especially the Jewish people, have to be subjugated basically
yeah.
because I don't know, they aren't good enough to live their own lives, I guess.
Hmm.
They need people to control their existence.
Yep.
So that's why there's talk in this film of like the Aryanization of the town where it's taking place, because all the Jewish owned businesses are being taken over by people who are chosen as their Aryan managers, I guess.
Yep. Yep.
And so our main character, I'm not going to remember names.
To know.
Tonal, yeah. My subtitle said Tony,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Tony, like the abbreviation of the Italian name
Yep.
Antonio. And I mean this guy Tono, his name is Antonin, so I assume there's like a common point of origin there in terms of, I don't know, ethnicity. But in
Mm.
any case, he's selected to be the overseer for the button shop, like the
Yep.
general store, I guess,
Yep.
of this confused old Jewish woman.
Yep.
So we get that development, and
Yep.
then he strikes a deal with another man in his community whose name I also can't remember. Let me scroll down on the Wikipedia article here to cast.
Yep.
What?
I think it's like the true supporters, the true community, and the name of that guy is
I don't even remember, dude. I'm looking here.
maybe Kutra.
Who?
But yeah, I know who you mean.
Why is this so difficult? Oh, yes, it is Kuchar.
Right.
Yes, it says here a member of the resistance. So the point I was like following along with the film, and we got to the point where Kuchar suggests to Tono that he, oversee quote unquote the business, but
Yep.
really he'll just be working in the back
Yep.
in the elderly woman's living space. He works on her furniture and like refurbishes it and stuff. And as payment for the fact that he's going to stay out of her way and just let her be, he'll receive like a stipend, like a
Hmm.
weekly payment.
Yep.
So when we got to that point, I was like, okay, this is interesting because there's potential here for him to. There's going to be like tension as he tries to maintain this secret, or there
Hmm.
could be comedy as he like inadvertently becomes a pawn of all the people who are working at the store and like members of the resistance. He accidentally becomes one of them just
Yep.
by being part of this scheme.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I see some different directions that the film can go in, and
Hmm.
I'm interested. But as it wore on, and we finally got to the last, I wouldn't even call it the last act. It's just like the last scene, which stretches on for how long? Like 30 minutes.
Yep. 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 Like he just drinking and he just drinking nonstop
Yeah,
the bottles, and he just uh very like playing against himself there.
he loses his
Like,
mind.
yeah, yeah, that's right. He just really like in between. Uh, he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. So once we got that far, and in fact, even before that scene, the scene where he slaps up his wife
Yep, 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 yep,
for you know, she's suggesting that he needs to find out where his Jewess, which is a term
yep.
that was used in my subtitles,
All right, you have
hides the
different stuff
gold.
to me. Yep. Uh-huh.
What was that you said? Did your subtitle say something different?
Yeah, yeah, you have different sub title than me for sure because I
Okay.
don't remember that term.
Yeah. It's
Yep,
that's pretty offensive. But I mean, it's possible that it's the best like translation
yep,
of the offensive term that was used in the script.
yep,
But in any case, she wants her husband to find where the gold is, like in the walls.
yep.
And
Eh,
he obviously he's fed up with not just her nagging, but the discriminatory attitudes
yep.
that many members of this town have. Um,
So he slapped her
yeah,
nonstop.
out of frustration with her, with his own situation, with the plight of the Jewish people in this community.
Yep.
Um, all of that comes to a head when he, and so like it doesn't feel good to watch his character do that to his wife,
Hmm. Hmm.
but it's not the violence against women that I really had a problem with in that scene. It was more that the film was kind of taking it up a notch,
Hmm.
to the point that the humor that could be found in past scenes was kind of like sucked out of the film in
Yep.
that moment for me. And of course, there is basically nothing funny about the last 30 minutes of the film, 30 plus minutes,
Yep.
where he's drinking and losing his mind and inadvertently kills the woman that he's like sworn to protect.
Yep. I think the point here is that he is the representation of everyday man, and under like a very stretched condition, he also broke.
Yeah.
So he also lose his mind, even though that he means well. He aimed to mean well. It turned out that like he actually make the most terrible crime.
Right. Well, I mean, even I would say the film goes one step farther than that, and says that he he is culpable for the violence and the displacement of against and of Jewish people in this
Hmm.
movie by like kind of being clueless
Yep.
and not working actively
Yep.
to safeguard his fellow human beings in the
Yep.
way that, for example, Kuchar does,
Hmm.
because he's somebody who he gets captured and a sign gets hung around his neck, and
Yep.
the
The
Nazi soldiers
pure
talk
lover,
about how
right?
they're gonna right. Yeah,
Yep.
the Nazi soldiers talk about how they're gonna beat him and make a public display of him before finally killing him.
Yep.
Um, Even though that terrible fate befalls him, he still has more dignity in the
Yep.
end than
Yep.
Tono, who loses his mind because he's not really able to commit
Yep.
to the sort of position that Kuchar took.
Yep. I think he doesn't know which side to take,
Yeah.
and that
And I
that
think the film's
hesitate.
arguing that he's a villain because of that.
Yep. 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 That's true. And but we see him at first as a guy who really contempt his brother-in-law,
Yeah.
And I really like the setup where like they building the building things, like the wooden building, just
Yeah.
like on the main street, and he's contempt of that as well, just because like he's a carpenter and he didn't get to work on that. But it's more of a symbol of the rise of the Nazi in the town. And we see the construction of that, and we see how like how it's become a symbol of Nazi later on. I really like that setting.
Yeah.
And he at first also, like we can see how frustrated he is. He make a honest job. He didn't get that much money. His wife just keep nagging at him, and even though like at first he tried to do some resistance. He just yeah, let's see, just talk. I just go somewhere else.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, there
and
are
then
multiple scenes in the film where she's talking to him and he just walks away.
yep. And yeah, and then there's a scene later on. I think the key scene is like when his brother-in-law uh come for dinner, like bring all the stuff, and ask him to be uh uh
Aryan, like an Aryan
Arian's
representative or
seers.
officer or
Yep,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. So that thing turned into like that. So I actually really enjoyed the specific of it, the whole thing, like they really know about um that's something you don't see, like in other countries, like something, it's just
W-
very specific for me.
what do you mean?
The Aryan Nation program,
Oh yeah.
the uh yeah, the thing that he had to, like taking over the shop, and then he see the old Jewish woman who who really confused as well.
Yeah. What is her? So her name is Rosalia Lautmanova. Lautmanova.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know what
yeah,
we ought to call her because that's kind of a mouthful.
yeah. Just
We
just call her old woman.
the old
Sorry.
well, yeah. No disrespect to her or
I I
her
I
descendants,
yeah. I
her
think she
family.
played the I think she played the part very well.
Oh, I agree. Yes. There was actually a point in the film where I wondered if she was like if it was an act.
All right. So
And the reason I thought this was because at first when Kuchar makes it when he explains to Tono that uh, she's she's not well mentally, and he shows him the empty boxes that are supposed to have buttons in
yep,
them.
yep,
So Tono realizes, oh, okay, there's nothing of value in this whole shop.
yep,
My brother-in-law has set me up. He's just put me in a worthless position, just
yep,
because they need a body to fill this role. They need to check off a box on their Aryanization form, I guess.
yep, yep,
Um, and you think, oh, okay, well, this woman's crazy. Later on, without explaining that the store has been restocked, you get the scene where she is selling a bunch of different items to a group of Jewish women who have come to shop at her store, and he's called into the main room in order to help her get things down from shelves and stuff. In between
yep,
these two scenes, there's no mention of the store like being restocked.
yep.
There's only a mention from Kuchar that, okay, so you just leave this woman alone and we'll make sure you get paid. They don't say anything about transforming it into a legitimate business, at least not from
Yep.
what I saw.
I Yep. I think they don't the Nazi, they don't took all of it. They just like take like half of the goods. So like we have like all these stock, like on top. I think the Irish stock, and the dummy just like at the bottom. That's what I think.
You,
So
I
she
don't
would
think
have
so,
enough
man.
to sell.
I don't think so because in the scene where she thinks where Tono first meets this elderly woman,
Yep.
he she thinks at one point when he's pointing in a direction, she thinks, oh, he wants buttons. So she gets down like 4 different boxes of buttons from a
Yep.
shelf that she can reach and sets them all out, and there's nothing in any of them. But
Wow. All
later,
right.
when all the women are coming to shop, like she'll be pulling down boxes of buttons, and they'll be rattling. There's stuff inside.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
so the reason that I bring all of this up is because I thought to myself, seeing the difference between those two scenes, wait a second, what
Yep.
if in preparation for Tono's arrival, Kuchar had caught wind of the fact that he was coming
Yep.
and instructed the woman to play dumb and hid all the materials, like all the stuff for sale, the goods at the store.
Yep.
And he was like, he had been tricked essentially.
Yep. That
I,
could happen,
yeah, I thought because in my mind maybe I was still in like comedy mode because
Yep.
the film that I watched before this one was Closely Watched Trains, which
Yep.
is like
Yep.
a satirical film.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
and I thought to myself, oh, well, this could be just like the big farce somehow. But
Yep.
then you realize, as you said, the woman who plays Lautmanova gives a good performance. And I think her performance was what convinced me as I was watching. Oh, this is not like nothing is funny about this.
Oh
she's
well.
really she's really an old lady who's lost her mind and who is
Yep.
at risk of being shipped off
See,
to, you know,
I
a labor camp.
yeah, well, I think she doesn't lose her mind, but she just out touch of the current world.
You don't think she's lost her mind, really?
Yeah, well, I think she still perform all right. Like she still run the shop. She still, pretty much can survive on her own. It just, like she just doesn't really take into account the current world anymore. So like when people talk to her something that she doesn't understand, she just, just let it go.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. When
So,
she sees that he has opened up the shop on the Sabbath day,
yep, yep,
like to her that just overtakes everything else in her mind
yep,
because her routine is probably so thoroughly set. Um,
yep.
she really
True.
only she lives her life in isolation. Basically, people go and do her
Yep,
shopping for her. Her
yep,
husband is dead. She talks at one point in the film about her family.
yep.
She has 2 daughters, maybe, and one of them is married in America to a man
Yeah,
named
I
Joe, I think.
yep, yep. I think yeah, I can recall that.
Yeah, but they don't. She doesn't see them anymore. It's not like they're going to return home, given that World War II is happening.
Yep. Well,
Um,
I don't think she even know that World War II is happening.
right. Yeah, I
So,
suppose. I suppose not. Well, she does towards the end of the film. In that final act, I guess she
yep,
recognizes that a pogrom is happening, and she says that word.
yep,
Um,
yep, yep,
So
yep,
I don't know if that would be if her recognition of the fact that a pogrom was happening, if that would be based on her memories of other like recent acts of violence against Jewish people in the context of World War II, or if they would
mm,
be other anti-Semitic movements like from
right,
before World War II that she's remembering, perhaps from her middle age or even her youth.
yep.
That it's left up to interpretation, I guess.
That's true. But yeah, I really enjoy uh the chemistry between Tono and the old woman until man the last act. It's just so sad, man.
The film was kind of losing me by that point. I didn't.
Right.
I mean, obviously, her death, like the senseless nature of her death, and then the fact that he kills himself. Those are both, those are
Yeah.
very sad things. But by the time I got to the end of the film, I was like, let's wrap this
Right.
up.
And yeah, and I think they know the Nazi people they know that I don't know if they know that she the Jewish and they just let her go, like because they know that she harmless, she's not gonna do anything, they just forgot about her completely. but
It's
but to know,
what's that
like
guy? Piti Bachi. Do you
the
remember
friend.
Piti Bachi?
No.
He is, let's see, in the final act, he is the member of, I think he, based on the hat he wears, I think he's a member of the Nazi Party, but
All right.
he's
He's
sympathetic to the Jewish people. He's the one
right.
who had his job taken away because they installed like the
Yep. Yep. Yep.
sound system, I guess. I don't know what to call it. It's not a
Yep. Yep. Yep.
megaphone, is it?
It. Yep. Mega.
Megahorn? I can't remember. But
Yep.
yeah, that's Piti Bachi. He's also the
All
guy
right.
who comes into the Mr. Katz's barbershop
Yep. Yep. Yep.
for,
Yep.
but he doesn't have
Remember him.
a reservation. You know, he hasn't made an appointment. Anyway,
Yep.
Piti Bachi speculates to Tono, it's your brother-in-law
Yep.
who has spared this woman.
Yep.
I don't know if we're meant to believe that. I kind of feel like it's supposed to be baseless speculation, but
Yep.
it could also be the case because based on the speech that he gives,
Mm-hmm.
as all the Jewish people are being brought into that kind of town square under the shadow of the big tower that they've built,
Yep.
he's the one who kind of gives. He's the one who kind of addresses all of them and says, you know, we we understand, we have sympathy for you, but we also must follow the law.
Yep.
Um, and I don't know, based on his position during that scene, I think he does seem to be like not the mayor of the town exactly, but he's the leader somehow.
Yep. Yep.
So it's
Yep.
possible that if this woman was not merely overlooked, but was actually spared, that he was the person who did it. Not
Yep.
not
Yep.
really sure.
Yeah, but the sad thing is that Tono, like does the deed for them.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, I mean, I really do think that the film is, criticizing the sort of bystander attitude that
Yeah,
people of the majority group in this time period might have held just to keep themselves out of trouble. Um, and Tono's character is representative of that. So the fact that he kills her accidentally is not, in terms of the message that the film is delivering, it's not really an accident.
yeah,
Like he's out of his mind when he does it, but what you're supposed to take as a member of the audience is that he, by not working proactively to save her, he has killed her.
yeah.
And then, of course, his punishment for that is death um,
Yeah.
when he
I
kills himself.
yeah. I think I'm pretty much into with the movie till the end. It the last sequence where like they have like uh a fantasy where the two of them like dance happily together.
Right. That's one of
It
two
just
fantasy sequences like that. There's one
yeah.
earlier as
It
well.
just feels so weird. It just so out of place.
I kind of agree. Um, I really, I don't know if I understand everything about what the film was trying to communicate or what the director wanted to achieve
Yeah.
with that scene. I mean, I don't know. I think him being I don't know, Aryan, I guess, and
Yeah.
her being Jewish, and there being a scene of the two of them like existing in perfect harmony. I
Yeah.
suppose maybe those images are just put into the film as an ideal
Right. Yep.
that he failed to reach, and that
Yep.
Czechoslovakia as a whole, as a nation, failed to reach
Yep.
under Nazi occupation. So perhaps they're just there as a point of contrast, like a what
Yep.
could have been.
I do think I understand the relaxation of like of this film because this is a attack to the period where the Nazi occupied Czechoslovak. So it's not a strike against the communists. Well, it actually worked together with the communist message. So I can see that.
Works together with a communist message. What do you
Yeah.
mean by that
So
exactly?
it just like if because they are under the communist party at the moment
Yeah.
at the time of this film any film that have like anti-Nazi sentiment would work for them,
Would work for who?
would
Whom?
work for the communist party. So I think it's that's why it's get approved.
Oh, I see. You're talking about just in terms of the film's like release
Message.
or its viability or its
Yeah,
message.
that's right.
I'm not sure I really get any communist messaging from
Well,
this film. That's what I'm
anti.
asking about. Like, what about the film is communist in terms of like its point of view?
No, no, it's not really, but it had like the anti-Nazi, anti-fascist in there.
Yeah, definitely anti-fascist.
So
Um, yeah, and yeah, I mean, Czechoslovakia at this point was a communist state, I believe.
yep, yep,
I think it held on to that, form of government or like that organization all the way up until '92. Like
yep,
from the end of World War I, maybe, or around the time of World War I, all the way to '92. So
yep.
certainly there couldn't be a film made during this time period that was like explicitly anti-communist. That would need to be released like outside of Czechoslovakia, probably secretly. You would have to
Yep.
smuggle a USB drive inside of a cake.
Yep.
You would have to do that 50 years before it was actually done in real life.
Yep. Yeah. Well. All right. You have any other notes? If or we can just go
Yeah,
to the
actually, I
overtone.
do.
Yep.
The Not the final scene, which is one of the two fantasy sequences,
Right. Yep.
um, but the scene beforehand when the camera tracks Tono as he attempts to escape it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that scene was very. I That was one of my favorite, maybe my favorite moment in the film, just
Um,
for
he
how.
look up. He look up at the hook. Um, to hang himself. Is that the scene that you were mentioning?
Not just the scene where he looks up into the hook, but there's a sequence where I think it's all in one take where
Yep.
he will, I don't know when him looking up at the hook and contemplating his suicide falls into this sequence, but he'll
Yep.
be like sitting in a chair and the camera will follow him and then he'll look directly at the camera and then slip away. And then before the camera follows him, it will hold on um, a like pictures on the wall of the elderly woman's family
All right.
or
Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm.
the breakfast that she has prepared for herself or set out for him in the
Mm-hmm.
morning or something along those lines. So the pattern, I guess, is the camera will catch up to him, he'll look into the lens, and then he'll leave. The camera will focus on some reminder of her presence and then
Mm-hmm.
follow him to whatever new spot in the shop or in the house he's occupying, and then it'll get close up on him. He'll look into the
Mm-hmm.
lens again, then he'll slip
Mm-hmm.
away, and the process will repeat itself. And to me, I think this was like the camera essentially was like serving as his guilty conscience
Mm-hmm.
or just the feeling of guilt because he would attempt to escape it, then he would be confronted by it, he would look at it, and then the camera, the guilt that's following him would remind us of the elderly woman by focusing on a certain um, something in her apartment
Yep.
reminding us of
Yep.
her. And I
Yep.
just thought that was a really bold decision
Mm-hmm.
because it's essentially shattering the fourth wall. Like the camera at this point is not like a passive observer or an invisible recording device. It's the
Mm-hmm.
camera is like his guilt
Engage.
pressing down
Yep.
on him,
Yep.
and we're just following it.
Yep.
And
I agree with that.
I was like the film had I was kind of getting like tired and bored of it and kind of lost up until that moment, and then that kind of like yanked me back into it just because of how stylistically interesting it was.
Yep. I
So I just
thought that
wanted to
the
mention it.
I thought that the direction in these three movies are really solid.
I guess I would agree. I'm not always sure like how to analyze that or how to weigh that.
Well, you
Um,
just analyze the whole scenes that
well,
like that
that
really makes sense.
yeah, I mean that's easy though because that scene has a very strong point of view to the point that the camera is not even really functioning uh,
Mhm.
in the set like the director and the cinematographer are using the camera completely differently in that scene as they did in every single other scene in the movie. When it comes to like a more ordinary scene, I don't always know
Yeah,
how
well,
to tell whether the scene is well directed or not.
the
Sometimes I can.
way, yeah, the way I spotted it, just if there's something out of place, we will notice it. And on the three film, I actually just don't see any like noticeable flaw, and I think it flow very well.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I
proud for
really
that.
didn't think that this film flowed super well
Well,
all the way
yeah,
through, but that
yeah,
was just me. Maybe I was just sleepy while
yeah.
watching it.
Well, yeah, I know it's the longest out of the three, so I watched it first, so I think it was for my benefit.
Yeah, I probably should have done that. I watched it. I finished it just minutes before we started. Clicked record
Yep,
um, to talk about these three films.
yep.
But it
All
was all
right.
right. Like
Yep.
if somebody said to me, "Hey, recommend me a film for the Czechoslovak New Wave," I would not do this one first, but I certainly wouldn't like cross it off the list or anything. It was
Yep,
seems like a pretty interesting film. Probably has something important to say.
yep, yep. All right. Love of the Plot. Let's go with that.
Right, Loves of a Blonde by Milos Forman.
Do you know this guy?
I know that he directed Amadeus, right?
Yeah, that's right. So he migrated to America later on, and he directed a bunch of Hollywood films, and he won the Academy Award for Amadeus.
Okay. Yeah, I all I knew him for was Amadeus,
Yep,
but I'm sure that he found success with many other films besides that one,
yep,
including this
including
one.
this one. That's right.
Yeah.
And this is only his second films.
Hmm. Interesting.
And
It does kind of have a little bit of an amateurish quality to it. Not that I think the film is poorly made, but it feels not only does it focus on young characters, especially in contrast to the film that we just watched, but
yep,
it also the film itself feels very youthful.
yeah, true.
And so
And
I think that would be a product of the fact that this is one of his first movies.
yeah, and it's also based on the fact that most of the cast are non-professional. They're only
That could be a big contributor, yeah.
yeah, because they're from what I gather, there's only the pianist and one of the old man guy are professional. The rest of them are non-professionals.
One of the old
So
man
yeah,
guys.
remember like
Oh, of
three
the three guys
the
who are
three
trying to hook
guys.
up with the
Yep,
blondes.
yep. The most talkative one I think is the
Okay.
profession professional actor.
Right.
The rest of them are like just basically playing themselves.
Interesting. I mean that scene was one of my least favorites of the movie, probably, but it
Oh
was
wow,
still,
really?
yeah. I mean, well, I don't know. I think the
Least
whole
favorite, you
film
say?
flowed pretty well.
Yep. All right.
Um, so
Sum up.
it's not as though I hated that scene or anything, or felt that it was significantly weaker than any of the others, but
Yep.
um, yeah, I don't know what I'm saying.
All right. This one is based on what I read at the Wikipedia, and I I just love all the information that I read at the Wikipedia. It's my one man source of getting to know
Wikipedia
all the
is the
knowledge.
best website on the internet, in my opinion. I think it's the
uh,
number one. Like nothing comes close. There's so much information there, and it's free, and there's no ads.
all right. Well, it is saying that Foreman he got inspired to write the script when he see a woman like in real life he see a woman with a luggage lost in the cities and when so he drive her and she thought that she met a guy and he gave her the phone address in the big cities so she just follow that up and when she get into the city she realized that it's not the real address so she just kind of like just hang around the cities, lost in the cities, and that affected him the most, and because he did experience the same thing when he was looking for his mom when he was young. So that's one of the reasons that he inspired to write the script, and I thought that like the you can really feel the emotion there uh when our main character Andula just go into the big city and realize that like she's not welcome there.
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say that that feeling of being lost in a big city like is integral to the whole film because
Hmm.
although the scene where she shows up at the piano player's house
Yeah,
and meets his mother and father, that does take up a good chunk of the end of the film, kind of in the same way that Tono, his slow slip into insanity,
yep, yep, yep,
um,
yep,
that takes up a good chunk of the end of Shop on Main Street. In this
yep,
film, that I guess that's one similarity between the two is that the centerpiece, what you could argue is the centerpiece of the movie, arrives close to the end.
yep,
Um,
yep,
but at the same time, there are many many other scenes that have other things to say,
yeah,
such
true.
as the film with the three bumbling elderly, well, I should say middle aged like army reservationists
Yep.
who want to get together with like young pretty girls but have no
And
idea how to go about it. There's
yeah, I really enjoy this. Is I don't know what you said. What my it's your least favorites. Like the way that they try to bring
the
the
bottle.
wine, the
Yeah.
bottle of wine, and to the wrong table.
Yeah.
So they had to come to tell the waiter to set it right again, and
Yeah.
then they slowly come into them, and one of them like try to hide the wedding drinks, and when he stand up, it just slip out.
Yeah. And it rolls under the table where he has to go crawling to get it.
Yeah, I love
That's
that. I love
very,
that.
it's really awkward.
Yep, that's the whole point.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, there were plenty of, moments that made me kind of, I don't know, maybe not chuckle, but just kind of smile to myself or like smirk at how
Yeah,
strange strange they were.
yeah,
So I think that that scene was enjoyable in its own way, but at the same time, like the tension amongst the three blonde girls, like not with each other, but the tension between wanting to be like noticed and desired, but
mhm,
also feeling as though these guys are like undesirable and like
yep,
old and kind of creepy and gross.
yep,
um I don't know. Like maybe that's something that women would resonate more with women
yep,
because I don't have there I have been in zero situations where I've been out with my friends and like two friends and myself just sitting at a table and trying like seeing that a bunch of women are like staring at us
yep,
and like hoping that they don't come over, but at the same time, like kind of secretly hoping that they do come over.
yep,
Uh, I can't say I've ever had an experience that's even remotely similar to that.
yep. W- Well, but it's just fun to watch the whole thing, like just like play out uh to you, and to the to Andula the main girl, like she already in a relationship with with a boy, and he gave her the drinks, but she also still try to. I think she's looking for more
Well, I mean, she's
because
definitely looking for more. She's paired up with over the course of this film. She's not actually paired up with, but like the film kind of positions her with four different guys. There's her
is it
boyfriend,
yeah
whose name is I wrote them all down. Where are they? Tonda. He's the
Tonda,
yeah. He's the guy who gives her the ring.
yeah,
Then there's the forest ranger, who tells her all about the mating habits of deer and geese.
yeah,
and then there's the pianist who she actually sleeps with, sleeps with,
yeah,
who she sleeps with,
yeah,
and I think we're probably meant to assume that she loses her virginity to him
yeah,
because like before they sleep together, she says, "I don't trust you," and then cut to them actually in bed together, and she's like, "I trust you more than anyone I've ever trusted in my whole life," which just seems like a very
yeah,
seems like that's what's being hinted at.
yeah, yeah,
And then there's the leader of the three clumsy middle-aged
yeah.
guys. She's not really together with him in any meaningful way, but he is trying to get together with her. So
Oh, he he got it coming, and I I mean later on the he even been set up to the old woman that he ignore at first. So
one of
I
the
think
women from the table that the bottle of
yep,
wine was mistakenly sent to.
yep, yep,
Yeah, I thought that was actually one of my favorite of this film's little touches was that
yep, yeah,
um, the morning after or the day after Andula sleeps with the pianist and she has to like sneak back into the dorm where she
yeah, yeah,
lives
yep,
with all the factory workers. That
yep,
same woman is also sneaking back into the dorm at the same time, like early in the morning, most likely. And she has like a big smile on her face as though she's had a really great night. Um,
yep,
so that is like a little bit of redemption, I guess, not only like, you know, for that really clumsy uh, guy who was hoping to get together with the main character. Instead, he got together with another woman who
yep,
at first he scorned, but then I guess they really had a like a good connection. So
yep.
that's kind of a nice little victory for the two of them.
Connection. I think all of them uh understand that it's just like a one night stand. It's just our girl who doesn't know that, and like try hanging on to her love,
Right.
and
Yeah. Well, I wonder about what exactly the pianist, and I keep calling him the pianist. What is his name? Milda. I
yep,
wonder what exactly Milda said to her. Like, for her to have his address, he must have given it to her, right?
yep, that's right.
So he did
And
actually invite her to come over.
yeah, I think he just said like come over the city whenever you're free or something, and just something that he say at the spur of the moment. But
Right.
yeah, Andula just like take that advice, go on the very next day, not the very next day, the very next week.
Is that right? Is that the timetable?
Yep,
Okay.
yep,
Um yeah, so
yeah,
I
because
that was a question that was kind of bouncing around in my head as, you know, we were going through this long protracted scene of her like meeting the parents and
yep,
he wasn't there and I
yep.
was thinking how much of this is just her imagining that he
Yeah,
wanted her to come over, but I guess yeah, it's likely something that he said to her like when they were in bed together after the
yep,
fact, and
yep.
he
Or yep.
you should come
I
over. We can spend the night together or whatever.
Yep. I just feel that for the film the plot is light, but there are numerous instances where like things just keep going on and going on, and I sometimes it feel a bit too much, but sometimes they just stop at the right time, so there a lot of like improvisation as well and a lot of repeating. So, like, for example, the scene where Milda, the pianist, and Andula, before they have sex, there's the incident with the glide, the roller glide,
Oh
and
yeah,
he had to do that, and he had to repeat doing that, and like to the point where the whole thing just come off. So,
right.
so he had to put it back again. I think it's work as a comedy,
Yes,
and
yeah. I would say overall that this film is a comedy.
yeah,
If I had to call it either a comedy or a drama, like if you put a gun to my head and said I had to pick one, I would say it's a
I
comedy.
I still say that it's a tragic comedy
Yeah, I suppose it
for the
is
three
because
films. Yeah,
it ends on a very somber note. If you think
yep,
about the way that the film ends, the acoustic guitar piece
yep,
that
Yeah.
that the her roommate is playing, and she's singing very beautifully. I don't know what the song is. I did a little bit of like YouTubing and Googling to try to figure it out, but I don't know the title of the song.
Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
can remember the melody though because I listened to it several times. Um,
Is it?
and is what?
I think it might be some of the Soviet songs because I do
Do you
recognize
mean
some of the
Czech?
songs.
Why would it be Soviet?
Yeah, Soviet. But yeah, I can tell you the name. I some of the tune are really familiar.
Okay. Speaking of familiar tunes, there's also the song that opens the film.
Oh yeah,
I tried and tried to remember what because that is obviously like a blues song, like an
yep,
American 1950s
yep,
blues melody. But I
yep,
could not for the life of me figure out what song it was, like what melody was being adapted for that.
yep.
I couldn't figure it out.
Or maybe it's a Czech folk.
No, there's
All right.
absolutely no way. Like I've heard that melody note for note, bar for bar,
All right.
before in my life. It's like so. What I did, I couldn't figure it out by googling, and I looked for "Loves of a Blonde" soundtrack. That, of course,
Yep.
does not exist. So there was no way for me to figure it out that way. So then what I did was I started going on YouTube and listening to like compilations of Little Richard and Chuck Berry and a bunch of like early rock and roll musicians from the 50s. And I would just listen to their
Really?
greatest hits because I was sure that it was one of their songs that that melody came
And
from, but I couldn't find it.
all right.
But I know, like eventually I will learn what this song was, and then I'll be like, why didn't I figure it out in time for the podcast?
Yep. Well, one way that you can do it is Shazam. All right. Hold on.
I really doubt that that would be Shazamable.
YouTube here they have that opening credit.
Yeah,
So
but
the name
it.
is Hooligan, and is there any command?
I remember going to several versions of the that scene on YouTube and reading the comments and the video descriptions, trying to find out
Yep.
what the song was.
All right. Now,
And
so
I mean, I actually found a Czech band,
yep,
um, who called Lucy, I think Lucie, and
yep.
it was a song of theirs. But the thing is that that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for the American song that it was based on.
All right.
Um, anyway, I didn't figure it out.
All
So
right.
how do we get on
That's
this
fine.
subject? I said speaking of music or speaking of
Tunes.
yeah.
Yep.
So earlier I was talking about the closing, the way the film ends, because we were talking about whether it was a comedy or a tragic comedy or whatever.
Yep.
So
Yep.
the
Yep.
way the film ends with that song, that song is like bringing out the emotion that Angela is like keeping hidden because she's lying about the fact that she had this, she
Good
met
time.
yeah, she
Yep.
met Milda's parents and oh his father was so wonderful and so kind. She had a great time and then she goes to her job at the factory, which obviously
Yep.
what I don't know. I hardly imagine that job is very fulfilling.
Yep.
It's very
For
noisy and repetitive
for
and
some reason, I think that is it a shoe factory, but I might be wrong there because I don't recall seeing any shoes. But
well, Wikipedia says it's a shoe factory. I don't remember seeing
oh,
any
is
shoes
it?
either, but
Yep. All right.
there probably are in one of those shots. There's probably you know
Yep.
a box of shoes at somebody's like workstation that they've finished and put into a
Mm-hmm.
box.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the closing song continues to play, not only as she's lying to her friend while they're in bed together, gossiping about her love life, but also as she returns to work at the factory. The song is still playing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that song is I think representing her despondent like the despondent point of view, her sadness at how things have turned out. So
Yep.
yeah, in that sense, it's definitely a tragedy, but in
Yep.
other senses, it is a comedy.
And and it comes back to the beginning as well because in the beginning we have the same scene where she talked about her love life to her friend,
Hmm.
and we also wonder just how much of that is true as well.
Right.
Like when she see the ring and she say like how wonderful her boyfriend is, and then we meet the guy for real, and he just all he asks is just where's the ring,
Yeah.
I want to get the ring back.
Does he say that he wants to get it back?
No, he doesn't want he get back, but he just asked where's the ring, and he said like it's mine, right? And he said like just find the ring.
Yeah, I think I don't think in that scene like they were either of them had the intention of breaking up with the other right away. So it's not like he
Yep,
wanted the ring back, at least not right away, but
yep.
I think the idea was to communicate that he's like extremely possessive and he sees like the first thing he
I
thinks upon seeing her is where's my ring? Not
Yep,
oh I'm so happy to see you because I love you.
yep.
It's where's the mark that I put on you that proves that you're my girl.
And I don't even think that that history, he might just took that from his parents, so he's scared that
Maybe.
it yeah it now it's gone, he have to get it back.
Could be.
So yeah. There are some scenes that I definitely feel that it take a bit longer than it needs. It's like the scene of Milda, the pianist, going to bed with his parents.
Oh, I thought though the timing of that scene was pretty good.
Right, all
The
right.
the in that case, I think the fact that it drew on a little longer like increased not only the comedy of that sleeping arrangement, which is
Yeah,
very strange.
absurd. Yeah,
Yeah, but it also increases like it helps to sell that shot of Angela crying
yeah,
as she's
true.
listening to their conversation through their bedroom door.
Yeah,
It makes that more impactful as well. But it is very weird
yeah.
all the same.
Man, man, the mother, Milda mother is she even take the liberty to open her suitcase when she
Right.
was asleep. So
And it's
man,
interesting. You know what she found in that suitcase was a tie.
yep, yeah,
It's the same tie that she tied around the tree
that's right.
in order
When
to serve as like a marker for Tonda to find her in the forest. And that's when
Yep,
she met the forest ranger.
yep, 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 yep,
So it's interesting that she would use you know, the same marker for Tonda and also for Milda.
yep.
To me, that kind of signals that she it's there's like a deeper I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it like none of these boys are really special to her.
I
None of them are capable of like fill like whatever loneliness she feels, none of them are capable of fixing that.
I
And
I
so
think I get what you mean. So it's more like chasing love, not like chasing this boy. And
yeah,
so like all the idea that all the things that are romantic to her, she will keep it to herself. So she will bring it along. So
could be that the tie is meant to resemble or meant to represent like a preconception that she has about love that
yep,
doesn't really fit any of these guys individually. But I'm
mhm,
looking at it almost from the opposite perspective, which is that she isn't going to bother individualizing um, any of the stuff that she associates with these guys. Like in her mind, there wouldn't be a reason for her to use like to bring a different tie for a different guy
mhm.
because none of them are really that important to her or vital to her. She's just going to use the same one over and over because she doesn't really see a need to. Um, there's no reason to change,
Yeah. Or maybe it's the opposite that every guy was important to her at some point.
and
And
that well, if that's the case, I feel as though if the film wanted to communicate the fact that all of them were so important to her individually, then it wouldn't have included that scene where it's you open the suitcase, you realize it's the same tie.
yeah, it's interesting in a way,
Yeah, it
That's it pretty good.
when I realized it was the same time, I was like, I kind of I paused the film and I thought about it for a little bit, like what is being communicated here.
Yeah,
I'm not exactly sure, but I like the fact that it recurs because it gives you something to turn over in your mind.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, a great film to me, and it just 80 minutes, so it's the ideal length for me as well.
Yeah, 90 minutes is a great length for a movie, hour and a half. Like, do films even need
Yep,
to be longer than
yep,
that?
yep, yep,
Most of them probably not.
yep.
So yeah, I enjoyed this movie.
I do too. I think the my favorite scene gonna be the scene where the three old soldier just want to set up a uh to try their best, like in a clumsy way to chase the triggers, and we see how it pan out.
Yeah,
Lovely stuff.
I wouldn't say that that was my favorite, but
Right.
yeah, it has its place
Yep.
in the movie. It's just very weird. So it's of the three films that we watched, this is the one that doesn't like explicitly deal with
All
Nazi
right. Yep.
occupation or anything. So I guess this
Yep.
film is a little bit more. There's obviously there's some commentary being offered about like
It's I think it's more about their current life, so the life after the war.
yeah, and that maybe people are having a difficult time finding personal fulfillment,
Yep.
and that relationship like the difficulty in forming relationships among a younger generation may have been caused in some way by the after effects of the war. I'm sure
Yep.
that there are some readings of the film that you really need to either be Czech or you need to have studied, historical like Czechoslovakian historical sources. Be
Yep.
like well versed in that sort of history to understand. But at the same time, you know, this is a film maybe the most approachable of the three movies because it's
I
like the least specifically tied to a time and place. It's not like
Yep.
inherently political. And
I agree.
you have scenes like those old men trying to get together with younger women that can just serve as uh, I don't know, humorous commentary on I don't know,
Hooking up.
romantic troubles, the
Yep.
failure of men and women to understand one another, just
Well,
generally.
yeah. Apparently, this film is popular in this homeland to the point that the factory town, which is like the real factory, getting swarmed by campers, who just like come there to camp, and like one of the woman worker can come to meet them.
What?
So it's happened in real life.
Oh,
So it's
interesting.
become more popular, the town and the factory become more popular after these films.
That's interesting.
Yep.
So you're saying that a bunch of guys came to this real life
Yep.
Czechoslovak
Out
town and like
looking
were
for
trying to
looking.
score with the
Yep.
female factory workers that
Yep.
worked there.
Yep. 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 Yep.
I wonder how many of them actually that worked out for.
Yeah. Well, if the girls like that, like it's a win-win situation, right?
Yeah, if they like it or if they're flattered by it.
Yeah.
Oh, if I don't know, I might just think that sort of thing is weird. But who am I to judge? Maybe like some of the guys that came were really good looking, and then you just take advantage of that situation.
Well, maybe like the pianist guy, the piano guy.
Maybe
All right, come to the last one.
the last film.
Yep, closely watch trends.
Yeah, I would say this is my favorite of the three.
All right. Hmm.
No
I
bias, obviously. Me being you know, me being a man couldn't possibly have anything to do with the reason why this male-oriented sex comedy is my favorite of the three. There's no way.
All right. I love the narration at the beginning, detailing his father, no, his
His great
grandpa,
his great
gr-
grandfather
and
and his
grandpa.
grandfather and father. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love the details. I just wish that they maybe mention more, or like expand the idea a bit more later on. But it just contained to be like in the first 5 minutes of the films.
Well, there are a couple other references throughout the movie to his family history and like the people's awareness of it. They know
Yep.
that he comes from this family line of kind of like idiots, essentially,
Yeah.
um, or else like lazy bums, because his dad received his pension when he was still middle aged, and now he just
Yep.
hangs around at home all day and doesn't work.
Yep.
Not that I can blame him. That sounds great.
Yep.
um, yeah, and then his grandfather was a hypnotist who tried to what did he try to do? Like hypnotize
Yeah,
tanks?
hypnotize the tanks. It stopped
Yeah.
at one point, but then continue to move on and crush him.
Yeah, and the reason I say that there are references to his family history throughout the rest of the film is because I remember one character talking about the fact that his grandfather was that hypnotist, and he even
Yep.
explains the context of like what war it was that
Right.
he did that in, because this film is set as the shop on Main Street was. It's set during World War II. It's set during
Yep.
Nazi occupied Czechoslovakia.
Yep.
And so if it's his grandfather who did that, then that must have been, and I can't remember, it says in the film, but it must have been even a pre-World War One conflict. This
Right.
must have been like perhaps late 19th century. So like 1890s or something along those
Yep.
lines. So I don't know who exactly, like who was driving the tanks that he was trying to stop, but it didn't work out for him.
Yep.
He got squished.
Yep. I can believe that. I still laugh when
Yeah,
when
of
we hear about that
course.
story about someone like judging that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how tragic is it really? I wouldn't say there aren't too many elements. Oh, you know what we didn't mention when talking about Loves of a Blonde was that
Yep.
Andula had cut her wrists.
All right.
She
Yep.
mentions that to Milda outside of his hotel room
That's right. That's
before they
right.
sleep together. And there's a link then between that film and this one, because in this
Yep.
film, the main character, Milos, is so romantically and sexually incompetent
Yep.
that he wants to kill himself out of shame after he
Yep.
fails to sleep with his girlfriend.
Yep. Yep. Oh my God.
So,
Uh,
speaking of tragedy, I guess there is a small element of tragedy to that story, but mostly it's just like dark, dark comedy.
yep. I I think the setup for that scene where where he tried to commit suicide is pretty brilliant, because at first we don't, oh, even before that, like when he wake up, he saw his girlfriend gone, and then a bomb just comes shattering the
Yeah.
house, and then he was like, he still like unharmed, and he's still like, like doesn't really know what happened, but like all the roof is gone. I love that.
Yeah, and
And
his girlfriend's uncle is like laughing hysterically
yep.
as like his place of business and his home, which are one and the same, are being
Yep.
blown to smithereens. He's just laughing like a crazy man. It's
Yep.
very weird.
Yep.
It's like
And
kind of delightfully absurd.
that's right. But yeah, but the scene I mentioned it afterward, when he ran the hotel room and stayed there
Oh,
for
that's
an hour.
that's a brothel.
Oh, is that the pronto? Is that the pronto?
That's why the woman says, "Do you want a girl?"
Uh,
And that's why uh once the alarm has been sounded, I guess, after
Oh
he's been
yeah, we see all the
discovered,
girls.
yeah, all the guys and the women that they've been having sex with emerge
Yeah.
from their rooms. Like, what's going on?
All right. I didn't. Yeah, I didn't pick that up.
Yeah,
But
so he goes to a brothel, which is a place to have sex, in order to kill himself, like instead of just hiring a woman.
yeah, and I love the setup there. We see some guy just working on the wall, and it intercut with like him going to the bath, and like we didn't even know that he committed suicide at that point. And then when he did it, we see that the guy who doing the work just oversee that,
Right.
and then come to rescue him. That just the setup just so perfectly, like and comically,
Yeah.
on point.
Like it's like the universe is conspiring against him,
Yep,
because the
yep. Even
very moment when his life is slipping away from him, when he's finally managed to take his own life,
yep,
all of a sudden, like, it's an act of divine providence that somebody busts
yep,
through the wall and sees him and
yep,
rescues him.
yep. Oh my God! And we hear the reason after that. That that he just uh he
Came
just
in his
incompleted.
pants.
Yeah, he came early,
Yeah.
and
He arrived prematurely.
yeah. So that's where I think the film lose a bit of power to me, because I just feel that his quest to like to not be in a virgin anymore, it become a bit repetitive. Like he basically asks anyone around him to like about his issues,
Don't you have a
and
sister?
yep.
He says that to
it,
Hubichka. Don't you have a
yep.
sister who could teach me?
and I do feel that like his encounter with some of these people can be cut, like the way that he talked to the station master about that, and then he asked if like what his wife gonna think,
Yeah.
and then later on cut to like he actually come to talk to his wife about that. So I think one of these scene can be cut.
And he's while he as he approaches her, she's like force feeding a duck,
Yep, yep, yep,
and
yep,
in a very obviously
yep.
phallic.
Subjective way.
Yes, in a yeah, exactly. That was a just yet
Yeah,
another awkward scene in this
yeah,
procession of awkward moments in Czechoslovak
yeah.
New Wave films.
True.
Yeah, he's definitely more awkward than, like, Angela from Loves of a Blonde is just naive.
Yeah.
This guy is stupid. He is just really
Is he?
dumb. Yes. He even has like a dumb look, like kind of a dazed expression on his face for the majority of the film. Even the film's poster is him, like, his eyes are unfocused and kind of glassy. He just looks like a boob.
He just have no idea,
Yeah.
about
Well, he
about a lot
also
of things.
not only does he have no idea about, like, love or sex or anything along those lines, he also has no idea about the war that's going on.
Yep, yep.
Um, he in
So
the in sort of a similar way to Tono in
yep,
The Shop on Main Street, who is criticized by that film for not taking a stronger stance in favor of I don't
mhm,
know, humanity.
yep,
I think this film, if you were to read it, obviously this film can be enjoyed just as a goofy uh, satire. But if you were to read it as, like, if you were to read it more politically, because after all,
mm,
it is set during World War II. I think the reason that this guy is portrayed as being kind of dumb,
mhm,
and perhaps the metaphorical reason behind his sexual inexperience is that he, like, doesn't understand the time that he's living in.
mm,
He gets roped into this this freedom fighter movement, I guess, or what would be a more appropriate term. Like, he's part of the rebellion,
Resistant. Yep.
within the resistance, exactly. Thank you. Within the Czechoslovakia, but he
Yep.
doesn't even really get what he's doing.
Yep.
He just thinks it'll be cool to like blow up a train, I guess,
Yep.
when Hubitschka explains it to him.
That's what I feel as well because he doesn't really put a lot of thought into uh blow up a train uh full of guns. I
Yeah,
think.
ammunition. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, he in the end he carries out the mission like kind of heroically.
Yep.
After gaining a big confidence boost after sleeping with Victoria Freire, right? That's her name.
Yep.
Um,
Victoria
the
Freire.
beautiful resistance fighter
Yep.
or resistance member.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And in the process, he rips the couch in the same way that Hubitschka did when
Yep.
he slept with his own cousin. I think.
Is it? All
I
right.
think so.
I yeah. Well, I think it's like a relative, but it's not close relative. I think
Well,
it's like
I hope
well.
not. I mean,
Yep, yep, yep. Because I remember they did say something about him, he as a cousin. Yes,
well, they when in reference to her, she was called the dispatcher's cousin,
right.
and in the film, the two dispatchers are Milos and Hubitschka,
Eh, yeah,
because the guy, like the overweight guy, Lanska, who lives
yep.
with, like on the, I guess
He's
he
the
lives in
station.
the station on the second floor,
Yep,
maybe.
yep. He's the station master, I think.
Right. Yeah, he's the station master, and Masha, the
The
girlfriend,
wife.
she's a conductor, not a dispatcher. So, and I don't assume that woman who Bichka slept with was Milos's cousin. So I think it was his cousin or some. Yeah,
All
I,
right.
I don't know.
But
Think he
anyway,
think he slept with his own cousin on the couch, which is where Milos eventually loses his virginity.
yep. And there's a scene we get a lot of Kupiska, like doing his job and enjoying his things. One of them is he playing with the telegraphist by stamping
Yep,
yes, just stamping into her thighs. I think that's
and her butt. Don't
and her
forget the
butt.
butt.
Yes,
I mean, her
I think
mother definitely didn't forget. She took photographs of it and went around town showing them to everybody and dragging
yeah.
her daughter along with her.
Jeez.
When I say
Well,
that this film is a satire, that's one of the scenes that, or
yep,
kind of the through lines, that pops into my head first, is the fact that she's like barging in on some guy's disciplinary hearing in a
yep,
courtroom and holding up the photo while like clamping onto her daughter's wrist with her other hand,
yep,
like, look what Hubitschka did to my daughter. And then all
yep.
these elderly men like get down from their position behind the bench to better
Come to
inspect the photograph.
yep, and and the convict, he just kind of looking away.
Right.
I don't want to see this.
Yeah.
He's a well-behaved guy, man.
Yeah, that's interesting that actually that's written into the script, that the guy who's on trial as a criminal is the one who, I don't know, is I guess depicted as the most morally upstanding character in that scene.
Yep, yep,
It's kind of an anti-authoritarian, like a very mild anti-authoritarian
yep,
slant to that scene. Like, just because someone has broken the law doesn't mean they're not a moral person. It all depends on what the law is,
yep,
which is especially relevant given the setting of this film.
yep. And do you know that the doctor the actor who played the doctor,
Yeah, Yiri
who
Menzel. He's Yeah,
yep, he's the director of this film.
right. Yeah, I gotta say he actually looks very similar to the guy who plays Milos, the main
All
character.
right.
Yeah, I think they look very similar to one another.
Yep. Hmm.
They kind of have like a triangular face.
Yep.
Eyes are rather narrow. Um, I don't know if I can
And
do a better job describing it than that, but I just thought in that scene where they're walking down the hallway together, like this is
yeah,
after he's gone to see the doctor. The doctor's told him you have premature ejaculation, which I don't think is actually like you can't just say to somebody, you can say you have cancer because cancer is a disease. I'm not sure that you can say to someone you have premature ejaculation.
yeah.
I think
Well,
that's something that happens, not something that you're diagnosed with. Or maybe it is, I don't know.
I think it's more like he just explained. Uh, he just it's explained that so that Milos isn't worried anymore. Like there's nothing seriously wrong with you. It's just it's something that any young guy who is experienced.
Right. Just think about football.
Yeah, just
He
think
tells
about
them.
football because even like the manner in which he speak is very casual. It's not formal at all.
Yeah. So the scene after he's gone to see the doctor in his office and they're walking down the hallway together as they're
Yep,
leaving. With the
yep.
two of them side by side, I just thought that Menzel, the film's director, looked very much like his leading actor. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, but I think the guy who played Milos is a singer at the point. At that point, he's a popular singer, so he's more like an idol,
An
because he's very
idol?
young. Well, in the same because he's young and he's like popular singers.
This really is triple crossed anime. If we're referring to singers as idols.
we we have to refer something to anime.
Right. It's a crossover episode. Interesting. Let's see. I'm on his Wikipedia page now. He cooperated with Polish singer Anna Yantar during their performances. Yeah, he was an artist. He was a singer. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I thought this film was I thought it was very funny.
Yeah, and so even at the end, I think he fall down into the train and possibly just being blown up along with the train.
Oh,
So
I
that
mean,
make that
he
make him a hero, right?
yeah, I would say that he's a hero just for the way that he takes it on himself to drop the explosives onto the train when
Yep.
Hubichka is unable to because of the. We haven't mentioned Zednicek yet.
All right. Who is?
He's the Nazi
All right. Yeah.
who's
Yeah. Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about like how Hitler's youth are bleeding out on the battlefield and all you're doing is sitting uh, here in your train station and slacking off, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That
Nothing but
guy.
a laughing dogs or something. He say that.
Yeah, so my subtitles said, let me see if I can find them. I wrote down laughing hyenas is what Wikipedia says. But my
It's not.
subtitle said grinning beasts.
Yep. 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 I think that's myself as well.
Okay. So, yeah, that's his reference and I believe that he himself is he's Czechoslovakian
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
because his
Just like
name
the.
is Zednicek. It's a
Yeah,
Slavic name. It's not
yep.
a German
Just
name.
just like the guy in the shop around the corner. The shop at the main street. Sorry.
What do you mean? Oh, like
The brother-in-law.
right. He's
I think.
Czechoslovakian. He's not German. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that would have been a strategy
And
of Germany's to like elevate local people to positions of power, and
yep.
then they would, in that way, they could influence their community to take on the values of the Reich.
Yep. So I think at the end he carry on the legacy of his family by like dying heroically. I
Well, how
and
how did his we know that his grandfather was trying to be a hypnotist. I forget how did his great grandfather die?
oh wow. Uh, did they mention about his great grandfather?
Yeah,
They did.
definitely. Yeah, but I can't
I
remember.
I don't remember either. That's a good point. I don't remember.
I I wouldn't say that his family has any sort of like heroic blood anywhere in their line because his grandfather was a hypnotist, obviously a goof. His dad
Yep.
is a lazy. He's like a layabout, and
Yep.
I think I remember his great grandfather also being kind of a clown.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I can't remember the details that are given to us in that little opening bit of narration about
yeah,
his great grandfather specifically.
yeah. Cannot
But
recall either.
he, I don't know. I guess um, in parallel with his sexual awakening, he also, um, I don't know. He seems to gain the courage in order to strike a blow against the Nazis.
Hmm.
And I don't think that the film gives us a really good signal in term like I don't think it signals that he has like awoken to the importance of this mission politically.
Hmm. Yeah,
But I mean, he gets the job done at any rate.
yeah,
Um, so those two things are paralleled together, like him sleeping with a woman for the first time and him, you know, standing
yeah.
up for or standing up against the Nazis. How aware he was of the importance of what he was doing, we don't really know. And certainly he
Well,
wasn't aware enough not to get shot up by the guy with the machine gun
mhm.
peeking out the window of the train.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, at least he fulfilled, man.
Yeah, he did it. He died a hero.
Yeah. All
Although
right.
it's
Good.
sad that he, because it at the same time that this is a film about World War II, it's also a film about his coming of age, at least sexually speaking. And
Hmm.
he was going to get a second chance with Masha,
Hmm.
who comes and finds him at the station one day and says that she's not mad at him or upset with him anymore, and that she wants him to come over like the day after tomorrow.
I think Masha deserve better. So
You think she's what?
deserve better.
Well, maybe so. If you, I don't know. If she's like, if you think about it, after their dreadful like first time in bed together, which goes nowhere,
All right.
for her to
What?
approach him again and say, I'm not upset with you anymore, she must really like him,
Yeah, that's
because
right. That's exactly right.
ordinarily
And
that would be it, and you're not
yep.
seeking that person out ever again to have any sort of relationship with.
Well, that's exactly it. And what happened is he find out that that he been sleeping with another woman
Well, how's she gonna
before
find out?
seeing her. Well, I think maybe this guy will talk. Milos will talk.
You think he's that dumb?
Mm, like he says something like like I gain a sense of confidence this time because I have been training. I have been like working real hard
For you.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he could say something like that. He's definitely clueless enough. It's just too bad because I like, even though he's such a goof, I kind of liked their relationship.
Yeah. It
Uh,
it innocent enough.
yeah, I kind of liked how innocent it was, and how she was kind of like, she was attempting to like lead him along.
She the one who lead the whole thing, the whole
Yeah,
relationship. She the one who tell him to, like come over my uncle house.
right. You can sleep
He
over.
you can sleep over.
Don't worry about the fact that the door is open a little crack and that
Yeah.
he'll probably hear us. Who cares?
Who cares?
She must have been
Oh God.
pretty horny.
Mm, well, we lost it too.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's what kind of powers a film
Oh,
like this, is the horniness
uh,
of the characters.
yeah. That's a scene that we haven't talked about. There's a scene about the nurses. Like
Yeah.
come over, and he just kind of like walk into the scenes and slowly walk out of the scenes, look at them, and then uh the whole other soldier just like come by and decide to stop by. And so he just walk over there, open the door, see what happened inside. I love that.
Yeah, that's more cluelessness, I
Yeah,
guess, just taking a different form. And then he's like
and
staring through the door into one of the passenger cars where this orgy
yep,
is happening.
yep,
Well, I guess it's not really an orgy because they're all in their own little individual compartments, kind of,
yeah,
right?
yep.
And then
and
one of the
he
women
got
just
kicked
comes
out.
over and like sweeps the
Shut the
curtain
door.
closed.
So he not even been like invited in there.
Right. How
Poor
heartbreaking.
him. Yeah.
So yes, I do. I remember that scene. I remember also before he goes into those train cars to observe for himself what's happening there. There's a conversation between Hubichka and the elderly gentleman who works there, whose name I can't remember.
Yep. Yep. I remember him.
What
Yep.
is his name?
Is he have a name?
Yeah, I'm not sure he
Because
does. I'm looking here at the very small, potentially abbreviated cast list on Wikipedia, and I don't see who his character might be.
yeah,
Um,
but I know who you're talking about.
yeah, there's him, and then there's a third character, an unnamed character, who I guess is another dispatcher.
Right?
And he calls the nurses sluts of mercy. At least
Oh
he did in
yeah.
my subtitles. And I wondered what he meant by that exactly. Like, I wondered if perhaps there was an implication there that the nurses were forced into sexual
I
service by the German military.
all right. I just think that they are nurses, but they are also horny. It just like the town that we see in the factory workers in the Love of the Blonde.
Right.
So they also available.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, that would be the ideal scenario, right? Is if they're
Yeah.
getting together with the
Yeah.
the soldiers just of their own free will. But just the
Yeah.
fact that those three men were discussing the policies of Nazi Germany, like the references to cattle trains being
Yeah.
trains full of Jewish people who were being sent to labor camps.
Yeah.
Um, and in the course of that same conversation, the nurses were referenced using that term, made me think that maybe, because in times of war, sometimes women are forced into
Yep.
serving military members in that way.
Yep. I
So
understand what you mean.
I wondered if that
Maybe
was
not.
what was being implied.
Yeah. Well,
But I mean, thinking back on it, and I don't have perfect recall of the scene, but thinking back
yep.
on it, the mood in the train car seemed to be pretty good. There was like a little
Yep.
bit of giggling and
See,
stuff. So
yep, and they actually let them on, you know, like I remember one of the nurses, like they were sitting in front of the door, and when she see the soldiers, she just gonna just walk in and like open the door, invite them in.
yeah, okay. Well, hopefully that
Well,
means that it was totally above board and consensual, and everybody was just having fun.
yeah, it's safe except Milos. Poor guy.
Yeah. Well, he eventually, you know, he got there. He got there in the end.
Yeah. All right. This also the most fun that we watch out of the three for sure.
Oh yes. Yeah, I would say that's probably why it's my favorite. I mean, I love a good like soul-crushing or depressing movie. I'm fine
Yep.
with that. But I also, I like films that are fun. And
Yep.
this is the one that I had the most fun with, and so I enjoyed it the most out of the three, I would say.
Yep. I don't have a clear favorite out of these three. I think they are on pretty much the same level with me. Uh, each of them say something different, you know. They have different thing that I appreciate. So yep. I think I have a really pretty good time watching the three films. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
I would say overall, I enjoyed these three films. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Pretty good episode, I guess. Pretty good
Yep.
selection, I should say.
Yep. The next one we do in this podcast gonna be the big one. So we gonna watch more, and come at the end of August, we're gonna do the top 10 films of 2022.
Right. Yes, which I am desperately cramming for.
Yep.
So far, I've only seen like 25 films from that year, so I have to watch like one per day in the lead up to this podcast episode that Mario's just referenced. in order to get up to a
Right.
decent number, so my list can at least not be completely unfounded.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna
I
I will get there the same way that Milos got there. Well, not the same way, but Milos, reached his goal, and so will I, just in a different way. Mine's
all
about
right.
movies.
Yeah, I wonder how many films that we have in Similar on the top 10. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm thinking if I had to speculate, I would say that there will not be very much overlap because unlike anime,
Anime.
yeah, which is
Yep.
something that both of us talk about on our other podcast,
Yep.
where both of us have a pretty good working knowledge of seasonal anime.
Mhm.
I know far less about film than you do, and I also pay far less attention to like the
The
reception of
buzz.
films, the
Yep.
buzz around films, the things that critics have to say about films. I essentially don't care about any of that.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so I will be, even the films that I'm selecting to watch in advance of the top 10 episode we're going to do are going to be totally different, let's say,
Yep.
than what you might value. So I would
That's
guess
good.
that there won't be a lot of overlap, but we'll see. I mean, I could end up I like the most acclaimed films of that year are like Everything Everywhere All at Once and
Yep.
Banshees of Inisherin and stuff like that. Maybe those will all end up being my favorites, but I kind of doubt it.
Yep. 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 Understood. All right. So tune in to find out in 3 weeks, the end of August, we're gonna unleash our top 10 films of 2022.
That's right. Yes, we'll see you then.